This week in WordPress, there are 3 articles that caught my eye. I sent them ahead of time to SJ so that he could read them and that we could talk about them. Article number 1, Drafting Pseudocode Before Building Anything by Tom McFarlane. This article by Tom talks about the importance of using what he calls pseudocode to map out the solution to whatever problem he's trying to solve before jumping in and actually building it or doing it. He gives a few examples of what he means by pseudocode. Mind mapping in a notebook or on a whiteboard, using another code language that is good for rapid development, or something else entirely. So I want to talk about this not so much because the idea or the term pseudocode really means a lot to me personally, but more so because I really like the concept of taking time before a project, whether it's design or development, or in my case, writing, to think and plan before any attempt is actually made at execution. This is a theme that Melissa Love and I talked about a lot in the last episode, and as it pertains to storytelling design. And I think it's a good recurring theme to touch on. What are your thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think looking at the article, actually, I think a lot of that rang true for me, what he was talking about. And it's not just, again, it's not the pseudocode thing, but it's the whole planning thing and making sure that you put time into it and allow time in, setting a budget for a project to really sit down and plan. One of the things that I had a teacher when I was at school, I did woodwork, and he used to say, measure twice, cut once. And I think that that's true in this case, is that you need to make sure that you think about all the things that can go wrong, and then sort of break those down and go, okay, so how am I going to overcome that? Because the problem is that if you do this stuff as and when you're building, you'll fix a patch with a patch with a patch with a patch, and then but you'll get yourself down the rabbit hole, and then you'll be like, okay, so what was the original problem? Because I've now got 10 problems,
Right.
So I think if you just take that time first of all to plan and say, right, okay, this is what I'm going to do, this is the problems that I'm likely to have while I'm doing it, and just get all of that stuff out of the way. Kind of like a Murphy's list, if you like, kind of, what can go wrong, make a list and just say, okay, these are the things that I'm going to do beforehand to make sure that I'm on point and this thing goes smoothly. I think even just we're talking about the last 5%. I think the first 5% is just as important, and we need to make sure that you get that stuff right. So yeah, I really like the article. Yeah.
Great. Article number 2, These Things I Believe, a Blogger's Creed by Bob Dunn. Bob Dunn is the owner and operator of bobwp.com. In this article, he provides us with 10 things that he believes in, specifically things that affect his approach to blogging. Among them are what you see is what you get. That's his take on being genuine. Everyone has something to bring to the table. That's him on recognizing voices in his community. And I believe in lifelong learning, just a sort of broad creed or code that he applies to himself in his blogging. I specifically want to talk about this one because, one, I'm a big believer in creating an alignment between personal, corporate, I don't necessarily like that word, but it works, personal, corporate, and community values, so that when you create content, everyone in the conversation's on the same page, they're speaking the same language. And then 2, because I know you, SJ, you do a lot of content work, and I wanted to get your take because, this episode's more about like design and development, but I didn't want to leave that aspect of it out, and I wanted to give you a chance to talk to something along those lines.
Yeah, I think when we do social media, when we're talking about Twitter and things like that, one of the first things people ask is, should I have 2 accounts? Should I have a personal one that I use to talk to my friends? And should I have a business one where I concentrate on kind of marketing and talking about my business? And the advice that I always give is, no, have one, and kind of make that your personal one and your business one, because people that are interested in your business are interested in why you're doing that. And that's as much about your personal life as it is about, there's only so much of your personal stuff that should be on social media anyway. And I think you've got to get that kind of across, and you've got to be a real person on the end of that business. You see it within the Divi community, a lot of the people that come together and collaborate for work have actually gone on to kind of friend request each other outside of that environment and have even become friends.
Yeah.
So, and your friend is much more likely to buy from you or to turn to you to provide a service than somebody who's a stranger. So I think your aim and this article is actually all about kind of alluding to community and how important that is when it comes to content. And I think that couldn't be more true. I think if you've got a good community behind you, you've got people just willing to share your blogs almost before they've read them. You know, you've got people that are willing to kind of go that extra mile and even defend you. Somebody else could come in and with a negative comment, and you've got people kind of jumping in before you've even seen it. You know.
Yeah, that's a really good point about community kind of having your back. I mean, if everybody knows who you are and where you stand, and they're on that same page with you, it doesn't really take a lot for them to, either defend you, come to your defense, or even just like, maybe you don't word something the right way, or maybe you don't communicate real clearly. They're willing to do the extra work to understand what you're saying, elaborate on it, and still pass it on, which if they saw that from maybe somebody else, they'd be like, well, it's not quite up to snuff or this or that. It's not an excuse to make bad content, but I think it goes a long way in making your content just that much more effective to those people.
Yeah, and I think with anything that you put out online, there's going to be groups of people. There's going to be people that are seeing this and they've seen lots of stuff from you, so they're able to judge this in terms of your overall kind of presence online. And then there's going to be people that are seeing it for the first time, and they're kind of literally making their snap judgment on whether or not you're good at what you're doing. And it's kind of like you need that community to kind of, if you do have a bad day or you do say something that gets taken out of context or doesn't quite mean what you meant it to, you need those people to kind of go, hey, no, he understands what he's talking about, and kind of jump to your defense. And you see that a lot, especially within forums and stuff like that. We talk a lot about Facebook and things like that. You could say one thing that gets taken out of context, and then before you've had a chance to really kind of say, no, that's not what I meant, other people will jump in and say, well, I'm sure that, he's just having a bad day or something like that. And you can move on, whereas if you don't have any community or any kind of friends online, if you like,
for an outsider to the conversation,
it's very hard to kind of gain that ground back and kind of keep that friendly kind of thing going. One of the things that I like about ET, actually, Elegant Themes, I should probably say the whole name, is that they're very good at kind of drip feeding that content. And even, from Nick Roach downwards, everybody's very involved in that community conversation. So it's never like you feel that you're saying something that's not being listened to. You always feel like everybody at Elegant Themes is listening to you and you're listening to them, and it's a mutual exchange rather than just kind of one-way marketing, which I think is really, really good for a company like Elegant Themes to have that kind of community around their products. And it shows in kind of Divi 2.4, 2.5, you can see that the community is being listened to, and that you can see it kind of all the things that people are asking for, and people saying, okay, well, I'm finding it hard to do this, this, and this, are being brought in and integrated into the product. And I think, from that perspective, it makes sense for Elegant Themes to do that. And from our perspective, we obviously love it because we get a better product at the end of it,
Absolutely. And, that's a good segue into the third article, because the third article is Divi 2.5 has arrived, featuring the Divi role editor, live preview, and much more. So this was... as of this recording, this was just yesterday, but when it comes out, it'll have been about a week from now. And I guess I just wanted to see, this is obviously big news for us at Elegant Themes, for the Divi community. And I think this release did a lot of cool things, not just with features, but also in terms of like putting Elegant Themes in a good place to start releasing new products at a faster clip. What do you think about that?
I think it's an exciting time, actually, to be part of this community, because you're seeing these things that we've really anticipated, especially between 2.2 and 2.4. We kind of had this time where we were kind of like, okay, so we're looking forward to seeing these features because of the kind of teasers that we were being given in the blogs. We kind of, just get there already. We want this product. we wanted it yesterday. You've got people putting off building websites because they're waiting for this kind of this new part to come out, because they know how much easier it's going to make their builds. So to see it kind of that roadmap developing at a good speed now is really quite exciting, because it's kind of like, okay, so what's coming next? And especially with 2.5, with this roles editor and things like that being brought in, it's huge, and you can see this kind of move from something that was maybe similar to things like Visual Composer and other themes with page builders built in, to something that is just surpassing kind of the other things that are out there. And I know people keep saying about kind of Divi being now more of a framework than a theme. I think you're definitely seeing that it's the page builder that's becoming the framework rather than the theme, which is even more exciting because you can actually take it off and ship it into other products if you want.
Anything. I mean, that's opening up the door of the Divi Builder plugin, I think is going to do a lot for everybody who's become, what will now be considered early adopters of Divi, because everybody who now has an expertise in Divi will also be an expert in the Divi Builder, and their reach for taking on clients or for working with other websites or people who have existing themes and don't really want to leave them. They're going to be able to go into any environment on any WordPress build and now do stuff that previously they couldn't have done. It's just really going to open up a lot of opportunities for people, and I think it's cool to see the community on that sort of precipice of something really big happening for a lot of them.
I think it's definitely exciting. I think one of the things that we do a lot of is kind of fix work. So we get calls from people that aren't necessarily looking for new sites. They're looking to have things touched up on existing sites. And it will be things like the Divi theme's been used, so they've gone online and they've looked for people that are using the Divi theme to build websites. And then they reach out to us and they say, okay, I need some help with this because actually I don't know what I'm doing. And there's going to be more of that because this page builder is going to be used on other sites. More developers are going to kind of embrace it and say, okay, I'm going to use it. Even things like having the role editor and locking down content is going to make it so much easier for those types of clients, because you can say, right, okay, we've put this onto your site. We've locked it down, so actually you can't mess anything up now. All of the stuff we've given you access to is stuff we feel comfortable that you're not going to explode your website by using. So I think it's a great time. I think it's not just the page builder either, but it's the using of Monarch and Bloom in amalgamation with that other stuff. You've kind of got this full package, start to end of these little things that just make up a perfect website. I think before Bloom, one of the things that came up a lot was, okay, so what do I use to kind of get people to opt in and stuff like that? Since Bloom, that's been so much easier. Before Monarch, people were asking, okay, so what share buttons work well with Divi? Now we have something built by the same people that built that theme that's available to us, So it's very good to see those products working together. It's very rare that you'll go onto a Divi site and not see Bloom being used or not see Monarch being used, because they just work so well together. So it'll be interesting to see what the next plugin is or what the next thing is that comes out from Elegant Themes. But I'm sure it will just continue to building this kind of environment where, cool things happen.
Absolutely. Well, that does it for this week in WordPress. If you'd like to read the articles we discussed, you can find them linked in the video description or within the blog post for this episode over at elegantthemes.com. That'll be Divi Nation, episode 4. Don't forget, if you're watching this video on YouTube or Facebook, take a moment to subscribe, follow, like, and/or share. It really helps. Thanks.